Nintendo recently did a direct like they always do in September. However, while we were probably all expecting them to do a Mario 40th anniversary direct, they instead decided to just do a regular direct with a Mario segment at the beginning. In this segment, they announced the Mario Galaxy movie coming out next year. The teaser they showed was really short, but I wasn't too surprised by that. Considering the first movie has been in my top 4 on Letterboxd since it came out, I figured I ought to make a video talking about my thoughts, hopes, and concerns for this next one. I know I'm really late on this, but it's taken me a while to figure out how to make this video in the first place. Just like with the first movie, I don't really expect this one to be based on just Mario Galaxy, but instead a few different games. Mainly I expect Galaxy 1 and 2 representation since Yoshi was teased at the end credits sequence for the first one, and I'm also expecting some Mario 64, some Sunshine, and maybe even some Wonder representation. I could almost expect Talking Flower to make an appearance just like the Luma did in the first movie. Now, let's take a look at the logo. There's quite a few things that are interesting within this logo that I'd like to point out. First off, we've got the G in Galaxy, which has 3 different objects inside of it. These 2 here definitely look like they came from the game, but I don't remember where they could have appeared. I'll file them under Miscellaneous Planet. However, we can see an airship that continues into the A. Now this one has Bowser's head on the front and cannons on the side, which means that this is likely from the intro cutscene of the game. This is reinforced by the UFO that also appears in the A. If you recall correctly, this is the same UFO that appears in the intro and cuts a big hole around Peach's castle. These airships then anchor down the ground around the castle and lift it into space. And what can we see on the side of the ship? We see a big anchor, specifically for lifting the castle. That means that we will almost certainly see a full one-to-one recreation of the intro in the first game on the big screen. Next, the L and the A in Galaxy have something that really interests me. We can see what appears to be a recreation of Honey Hive Galaxy. Now, Honey Hive is a great level in the first game, but that means we are almost certainly going to get a voice actor for the honeybees as well as Honey Queen. I'm really curious to hear how these characters speak, but I'm not too worried about it like I was with Chris Pratt as Mario. I'm mostly just excited to hear a rendition of that iconic song on the big screen. Finally, we get to the X and Y in Galaxy. The X isn't anything particularly exciting, it's just a recreation of Gateway Galaxy from the tutorial of the game. Or at least that's what I assume it is. It doesn't really look like Gateway, but it kind of matches. This also isn't really shocking information, considering this is the first area you go to in the game, and it's where Mario learns about Power Stars, Rosalina, and the Lumas as well. If it weren't in the movie, I'd be worried about how they handle anything else. However, the Y is where things start to get exciting. Again, we have what appears to be another generic rock that could theoretically have appeared in the game. But again, that's just another miscellaneous planet. Down here at the bottom, we have what kinda looks like that donut thing from Freeze Flame Galaxy, right where you land. And then up here, we have the main event, Gusty Garden Galaxy. Oh yeah, I'd recognize that question mark anywhere. It's no surprise this would make an appearance, since it's debatably the most iconic level in the whole game. Gusty Garden may be an iconic level, but its theme song is what makes it so special in the first place. Getting to hear a full cinematic remix in theaters is going to be very exciting for me personally. Next, let's talk about characters. I'm fully prepared to see Rosalina and Yoshi, since Rosalina is such a huge character in Galaxy 1, and Yoshi was teased in the post-credits sequence for the first movie. However, I could see them adding more than just these 2. Namely, Bowser Jr. comes to mind first, since he plays such a big part in the Galaxy games, making up like half the boss fights. There was also this movie theater chain in Mexico called Cinépolis, which talked about Bowser Jr., and here's a big one, Wario appearing in the movie. This was covered as a leak by some news articles, but I genuinely have no clue how much credibility this random theater chain has. Their name came up a lot during the promotional cycle for the first movie, so it makes sense they'd make an appearance again. So, will Wario appear in the Mario Galaxy movie? My personal thoughts say maybe, but not likely. Wario was originally a villain against Mario in Super Mario Land 2. However, he eventually became his own character and got his own franchise, and has kind of not been viewed as a villain in years. Does that sound familiar? Because it's the exact same thing that DK went through when the first movie came out. The fact that DK made an appearance in the first movie gives me hope for Wario appearing, but it's Nintendo, so we really don't know what they will do. My other concern is them trying to juggle too many characters at once without any breathing room. I don't want them to mess up Rosalina's story in favor of some Wario screen time. In fact, call me crazy, but I'd prefer if Wario just got to be the main villain in another Mario movie one day. Anyway, let's move on. Now I'd like to talk about my hopes for this movie. My number one biggest wish for this film is a longer runtime. The first one felt like it was a fine runtime for a kids movie, but let's make it longer for the sequel. The original felt very rushed in parts, and I'd like to avoid that here, especially for Galaxy. The movie needs to take its time and have lots of quiet parts to let the viewer soak in the atmosphere. My other big hope is for a more expanded soundtrack. The original movie cut out a lot of songs and replaced them with pop music. I would like to avoid that as much as possible here as well, so we can focus on remixing actual Mario songs instead. I've seen clips of people taking the original movie and adding the old music back in, and the difference is night and day really. It's so much better, and I assume they only added those in to appeal to the parents or whatever. It's Mario though. You don't need to try and appeal to anyone because he's Mr. Video Game. You could argue that he's more recognizable than Mickey Mouse at this point. Next, let's talk about my concerns for this movie, and I have a lot. First off, let's talk about Rosalina. She is arguably the most important character in this game, next to Mario himself, and she has a ton of lore about her in the game. Now, this lore is very important to her character and story, and my main concern is that they're just going to completely mess it up. The last movie was so fast-paced that there was no time for meaningful character moments or world building, which is fine for a one-off thing or whatever, but if you're making a whole series of movies, you gotta let these dudes breathe in between scenes. And nowhere is that more important than with Rosalina. Her story unlocks as you play through the game, so you are basically forced to absorb it slowly. They need to hold back on the pacing and let the story unfold in a very natural setting, rather than try to cram it down all at once. In addition to that, I feel like we barely know any of the dudes from the first movie. We got like an interesting backstory with Peach that was basically 2 minutes long, and then we got to see some of Mario and Luigi's home life, but that's kinda it. They really need to show us more of these characters interacting with each other. Just because it's a Mario movie does not make it exempt from acting like a regular movie. Even in Illumination films, we get to see character backstories and world building, and we need to see more of that here. My other big concern is the casting. Who in the hell is playing Rosalina? One thing Nintendo's been doing lately is pitching Rosalina's voice up higher as the years have gone on, similar to what Sega's been doing with Rouge, and this is something that's progressively annoyed me as her voice has gotten higher and higher. I'm really worried that she's gonna sound like that in the movie as well. Her voice just sounds too similar to Peach now, and it makes her stand out much less than she did back in 2007. It's also not super noticeable, but they got rid of her echo like she used to have in every game, including Mario Kart Wii. With the movie and the release of Galaxy 1 on the Switch, I'm really hoping we get to see a return to a more classic Rosalina voice. My last big concern involves Yoshi's voice. Yoshi was teased in the end credits sequence for the last movie, and it's pretty obvious that he is going to appear in this movie as a main character. So what's he gonna sound like? Will he be super annoying like in the Mario World cartoon? Or will he have a more normal voice like the rest of the cast? Unlike everyone else, I really cannot picture Yoshi with a talking voice. He never really talks, even in the games. In fact, he usually just makes noises and then speech bubbles put the translation of what he said in parentheses. I'm hoping they stick with that here, and maybe doing like an animal noise, maybe like an animal sidekick thing that Disney does. But all we can really do is wait and see what happens. Hopefully he won't suck though. Anyways, that is the end of my rant for this movie. As you can probably guess, I liked the first one a lot more than I should have, so I have really high hopes for this one. Regardless, I'm sure I will at least appreciate this one, even if I don't like it to the same extent. And as always, thank you for watching and have a great day. This YouTube channel was just something I decided to start one day, and it's kind of a hobby. I'm not really trying to do like a regular schedule thing or like a consistent video subject. So if you're interested in watching me try this out, I hope you'll watch and tell me what you think. Say what you think I could improve on, what I can't improve on. Well, I don't know. I don't have a script now. Anyways, thank you. Bye-bye.